Order at 7 p.m. for the okay, making sure my mic was on. For the audience here tonight, the city of Glendora utilizes a hybrid meeting format to allow participation both in person and virtually. In consideration of others and business conducted tonight, please silence your phones and any electronic devices and refrain from speaking unless recognized. This is a public meeting for the community of Glendora. We appreciate and respect your participation here tonight. Madam Clerk, would you please conduct a roll call?
Thank you, Chair. At this time, I would like to conduct oral roll call and request that each commissioner respond with present when their name is called. Commissioner Davis? Okay, he's absent. Commissioner Crimmins?
Present.
Commissioner Koss?
Present.
Vice Chair Faber?
Present.
Chair Norwood?
Present.
Let the record show all commissioners are here with Commissioner Davis absent.
Okay, if everyone would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Does anyone wish to reorder or add to the agenda? Okay, seeing none. So we will move to open public comment. I now invite members of the public to address the Planning Commission. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, both on and off agenda items. All questions should be directed through the presiding officer. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. If you are in attendance, please fill out a yellow speaker card and submit it to the recording admin before the close of public comment period. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state your name, subject matter, and the matter you wish to discuss. If you're participating via Zoom, select the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, you'll receive a request to unmute, state your name and subject matter you wish to discuss. So at this time, I'm going to invite members who wish to speak on public comment. Okay. Do we have any Zoom participants wishing to participate in public comment?
We do not.
Okay, with that, I will close public comment period. Okay. So I'm going to invite each commission member to provide a statement or report. So I'll start with Chief Commissioner Davis isn't here this evening. So Commissioner Koss.
No report. I just want to say good evening to everyone. I'm glad to see so many people here.
Okay. Commissioner Crimmins.
Nothing to report at this time.
Vice Chair Faber.
No report at this time.
And I also have nothing to report at this time. At this time, I'd like to invite Community Development Director Jeff Kugel and Assistant City Attorney Danny Alshear to provide any statements or reports.
No report this evening.
No report here as well.
Okay, and then we will move on to public hearings. We're gonna public hearing number 2, public hearing to consider an application to develop one single-story residence and a variance for hillside grading at 1123 Malagaboy Road in Glendora. California, subject number PLN 22-0003. Applicant is Andy C. Lynn, property owner, Luxury Resort Living LLC. I'm declaring this public hearing open, and this is a continuance from September 5th, 2023 meeting. I'm going to invite Senior Planner Natalie Espinoza to present a staff report.
Thank you, Chair. So this is it's just a small recap. As Chair Norwood said, that we had this project on the meeting for September 5th, Planning Commission meeting, where the public hearing was opened, and we did receive public testimony. We also requested this time to additional time to have sufficient time to prepare items and materials that were requested of the applicant. Since then, staff has had a couple meetings with the applicant, and due to more information required and them needing additional time, staff is recommending to close the public hearing without discussion on the application. And we will then, when the application is ready, we will renotice the application, renotice the item, and set the public hearing.
Thank you, Natalie. Invite any members of the public to address commission on this particular public hearing. Seeing none. Are there any Zoom participants on this particular public?
There are
hearing?
no Zoom participants.
Okay, with that, seeing as that we don't have an application in front of us, I'm assuming that there's no discussion or deliberations from the commissioners on public hearing number 2. Seeing none, then I will close public hearing and request a motion and a second to close this particular public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion made by Commissioner Koss and seconded by Commissioner Faber. I will now conduct oral roll call. Commissioner Crimmins,
Yes.
Commissioner Koss,
Yes.
Vice Chair Faber,
Yes.
Chair Norwood.
Yes.
Let the record show motion carries 4-0.
Okay, so we're going to move to public hearing number 3, application to construct a 2-story single-family residence, a variance for grading, a reduction of the west side yard setback and minor modification to increase the second floor to first floor area ratio on a certain property located at 613 Gordon Highlands Road, file number PLN 22-0032. I'm going to declare this public hearing open, and I'm going to invite Senior Planner Natalie Espinoza to present a staff report.
Thank you, Chair Norwood. Tonight before you is an application for a new single-family residence located within Gordon Highlands gated community. The subject site consists of a narrow lot that fronts Gordon Highlands Road. There are 2 water tanks located at the south portion of the property. Access to the property is located through a private street easement, approximately 5 lots to the east, that cuts through the various properties to access the proposed building pad through the rear of the property. So this is the aerial of the site. It's the one with the thicker yellow line. The applicant is proposing the following: a development plan review for the development plans of a 6,633 square foot 2-story residence with a 1,035 square foot garage. Variances for additional grading exceeding 150 cubic yards of soil within areas of the existing pad where original natural slope exceeded 35%. This is required for lots affected by unpermitted grading activity when the building pads were created for this tract. Also, a variance is requested for a reduction in the west side setback from 30 feet to 5 feet. A minor modification is requested to increase the allowed second floor ratio from 75% of the first floor up to 85%. And also the CEQA notice of categorical exemption of the CEQA guidelines. This is the overall proposed site. It's a little difficult to see because the lot is very narrow and very long. But as you can see, this shows that where that the proposed pad is here in this area, and this was the approved buildable pad area. This also shows the location of the access road, which is a private easement from lot 8, which is approximately, like I said, 5 lots to the east. And then here shows where Gordon Highlands is and the existing two water tanks. There are also water tanks in the property to the north, which is lot 6, but that doesn't really affect the property. This is an enlarged site plan. So that I could enlarge it more, I did turn it. So Gordon Highlands would be over here. So this is the area, the footprint of the proposed house with the garage at the rear of the property. So the access road comes over here, and then the garage is entered from the rear of the property. There's also several retaining walls that are being proposed, and that includes these two, which are about approximately 6 feet tall. And then there's also a tall retaining wall along the west side of the property, which would not be seen from the public street or from Gordon Highlands. And it's also structurally needed for the house. Sorry, one moment. As previously indicated, there is a variance that is requested for the west side setback, which is here. They are requesting 5 feet. The reason that they are requesting this is because originally the building pad was approved to go towards the east side of the property, but they are relocating that the proposed area of the building pad because less grading would be required if they located it where they're proposing it. Additionally, it's going to reduce the disturbance of natural areas, and also it's going to reduce the impact on slopes exceeding 35%. And it will also protect 4 mature oak trees with diameters over 12 inches. And this would protect them from neither demolition or relocation. They will just remain where they are. The proposed development meets the rural hillside residential zone and development standards that were approved for this lot, except for the minimum lot width, side yard setback, and the first to second floor ratios, which are all a part of this application through the variances and also the minor modification. This is the proposed second story area calculations. So it was calculated that they are proposing an 83% second floor. And that's why we are allowing them up to 85, just because it's an easier number. And also the code allows up to 85% with the minor modification. The architecture of the proposed house. Architecture is a modern ranch with characteristics such as a low-hipped roof with concrete roof tiles, large windows, open concept floor plan, and mixed material exterior finishes. As you can see, this is the south elevation, which is actually the rear of the house. And so we asked the applicant and the architect to show what the house and the property would look like with the retaining walls and the landscaping are mature. And so you could see that the landscaping between the 2 retaining walls would help screen the height of those retaining walls as seen from the bottom of the slope. Here you can see where the tall retaining wall will be located, but as you can see, it is partial. It is a structural wall. This is the rear elevation, which shows the garage. And then the 2 side elevations. And this also shows where those protected trees, it's just an elevation, but it includes the protected trees or the trees to be protected on site. As previously stated, the project will require grading to create the buildable pad. this was the area where the original building pad was going to be proposed. This gray area is where the unpermitted grading was located. But as I stated, they are proposing to locate the pad up here just because it's already flatter, and it wouldn't disturb as much land. Noticing went out to the property owners within a 500-foot radius on September 20th, and a notice was published in the San Gabriel Valley Examiner on September 21st. I just want to put on the record that condition of approval number 7, there is a typo. It indicates that the height of the building is 35 feet where it should really say 25 feet. And staff recommends the approval of the new single-family home with the entitlements of development plan review, variance, and minor modification. And the applicant, architect, and engineer and I are available if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. So I'm going to invite members of the public to address the commission to provide public testimony. And so, oh, yes. The applicant is invited to provide up to 10 minutes of anything they wish to talk about. Is the applicant here? Okay.
My name is John Gordon. I'm working with the co-applicant, Sierra Financial, and they're one of the parties to the plan itself. And as Natalie said, we do have our civil engineer here and the architect for the house plans, Susan Vanderpool. So they're available for any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'll invite any members of the public to address the commission up to 3 minutes. If you do speak, please provide a card on public hearing number 2. Seeing none, do we have any?
We do not, Chair.
And on Zoom? Okay, so I'm going to go to the discussion and deliberations from commissioners. So Commissioner Koss.
Well, I do appreciate the fact that you were able to realign this house so that you saved some mature trees. I'm all about the trees, and I appreciate saving some mature ones. And also that you're able to reduce the amount of grading that's involved. For right now, that's it. I may have more later.
Okay, Commissioner Crimmins.
Nothing for me right now.
Vice Chair Faber.
No comments right now.
I think it's a good project. I agree with Commissioner Koss on being able to rearrange the pad, also to reduce the grading and to save the trees. I do have one question either for the applicant or staff, and I imagine that the easement for the road that goes 5 or 6 lots over and cuts through the top of that's all been addressed and worked out. And I saw that the fire department approved the access in terms of grading, slope, and all that other stuff, but
so yes, it has been worked out. That's actually an existing access. There is a home located on the adjacent lot at lot 4, which is right over here. And so this whole access road is existing.
is that the road that serves the water tanks back there too?
I believe so, yes, because if you look on here on the site plan, it continues up to the water tanks to the north.
I have no other comments or concerns. Unless there's anything else from the applicant they'd like to provide, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And we'll move.
Actually, Chair, before you close the public hearing, if you're going to make a motion, just asking that you ask the applicant to state that they have read, accept, and understand the conditions of approval related to the development.
Okay, and I will request of the applicant state that again. How did you want that worded?
That they've read, understand, and agree with the conditions of approval contained in the resolution.
Okay, so what Director has stated, do you agree to those stipulations?
And if you could please come up to the mic. Thank you.
Yes, we read all of the requirements and we agree to go along with every one of them.
Okay. That's all duly noted. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we'll move to close the public hearing and request a motion.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Kloss, a second by Commissioner Crimmins, and we'll go.
I'll now conduct an oral roll call. Commissioner Crimmins,
Yes.
Commissioner Kloss,
Yes.
Vice Chair Faber.
Yes.
Let the record show 4-0
I'll vote
with
yes too.
motion carried. Oh, I'm sorry. Chair Norwood,
It's okay. I forget stuff too, obviously.
for the record, Chair Norwood,
Yes.
thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, we're gonna go to public hearing number 3, Cornerstone Bible Church Expansion Project, file number PLN 20-0007, applicant BGW Architects, property owner Cornerstone Bible Church. I'm going to declare the public hearing open. I'm going to invite City Planner Mark Carnahan to present a staff report.
Good evening, Chair, members of the commission. To clarify, this is item 4. Starting with some background of this project, it's gone for several versions and a couple of years work here. So entertain this for a few short minutes. Cornerstone Bible Church is a local nonprofit religious institution that has been part of the Glendora community since the 1930s. And it has a desire to expand and make improvements to their properties. The church has received multiple entitlements over the years. More recently, in 1991, a temporary approval was granted to allow temporary trailers for classrooms. In 1996, a CUP, a variance, and a time extension were approved to allow the conversion of the house at 420 North Glendora Avenue into an office and conference space. And then during the 90s and early 2000s, the congregation experienced a period of growth. The church began purchasing nearby adjacent properties with the intention of one day expanding the church campus. In 2016, the church submitted for a concept review for a church expansion, and general city staff comments were provided to the applicant. 2 years later, in 2018, the church applied for a zone change, tentative parcel map, development plan review for an earlier different version of the project you're going to see tonight. Many neighbors spoke at that planning commission meeting with concerns about traffic and parking and neighborhood character. Planning commissioners felt that the corner house, which was proposed to be demolished, should remain, as it might create more of a residential feeling. The item was continued, and the church reconsidered the project. The church held meetings with their neighbors to further discuss the proposed site design and try to address some of their concerns. Later on in December of that year, 2020, the Planning Commission held a study session on a new revised conceptual plans and rezoning relating to the expansion project. The meeting concluded with positive feedback on the project's new site and design layouts that address neighbor concerns. Following the 2020 meeting, the applicant and their project team have continued to work on various plans and studies. Consultants were hired to prepare the environmental review analysis and CEQA documentation. So after a long timeline process, we are finally here. Tonight, for your consideration is a request for the Cornerstone Bible Church seeking their formal approvals relating to their long-planned expansion project. To accomplish the proposal, the following land entitlements have been requested: a zone change, a conditional use permit, development plan review, tentative parcel map, and the related CEQA. For the first item, zoning, here's a map showing the sites surrounding area and their designations. All the project site parcels have a zoning designation of residential multiple family R2, except for the 420 North Glendora Avenue property, which is zoned R1. If you squint, you can start to see them. They're here. I'll kind of circle them here with the cursor. There's one lot here that's the light yellow, that's the R1. And then the rest of them, this block of neighborhood, which is the R2, which is the orange. Forgive the technical issue here. All this should be shown as purple. So although the church is a permitted use with a CUP in all residential zones with certain development standards, the proposal includes a request for a zone change from R1 and R2 that I just mentioned to a PR, which is a planned redevelopment zone, to accommodate site-specific development standards. Note, if a new site-specific PR zone were not adopted for the project, then as proposed, the project would be deficient in meeting some required development standards with regards to setbacks for churches in residential zones. Considering these proposed exceptions to the development standards and to provide consistent zoning standards across the entire church campus, as well as allow greater site-specific planning, staff recommends approval of the PR request. In this case, the PR zone across all the properties does allow construction of the new church building which sufficiently meets the sanctuary needs for the church and the other demands. It allows demolition of aged structures, which are currently being used as ministry gathering areas, some of them without permits. It consolidates church uses into one property and provides sufficient off-site parking, all as a part of the project. Table A, which was included in the draft resolution, contains the proposed development standards that were crafted for this Cornerstone Bible Church PR zone, which, if adopted, would be the code requirements for this zone. Separately, a new CUP will cover the expanded campus, and it will, among other things, repeal and replace the existing 1996 CUP. It will set maximum capacity to 350 persons. It will designate new site-specific PR standards for the minimum on-site parking and setbacks for the buildings and play equipment and other structures. It promotes also the use of alternatives to traditional parking. Again, something happened with our technology glitch here. This all should be encircled with a red. As part of the development application, the applicant is proposing a tentative parcel map to consolidate and merge 5 parcels or 8 lots into a single lot. The new combined lot will total approximately 1.28 acres and have frontage on both Glendora Avenue to the west, Whitcomb Avenue to the south, and Vista Bonita to the east. Note that while the property at 420 Glendora Avenue is included in the requested PR zone change and DPR and CUP requests, it is not included with the request for the lot consolidation merger, since there is a public alley that physically separates that smaller lot from the regular campus itself. So 420 is this property right here on the north side of the alley. So it's physically separated by a public way, so we couldn't combine that. Here's just an overall aerial of just the properties themselves. Here's the addresses that were referenced in a lot of the materials for reference. There's another oblique kind of angled view to kind of see the overall campus. You kind of see all the existing residential structures are all kind of to the east. They're going to be included here. These 3 structures are the 3 that are going to remain as part of the project and incorporated within the new campus. All 3 here are the 3 oldest structures on the properties. The original church, the 420 Glendora, which is on the top right, and the 131 East Wickham. These four structures here are the ones that are all going to be proposed for demolition. Construction of the expansion project is proposed in two phases. Phase one would demolish and remove the four existing former houses and accessory buildings to create an on-site parking lot areas, and would leave the house on the corner of Vista Bonita and Wickham Avenue, as well as build a single-story storage building that would be constructed just north of that corner house. This is sort of a visual to kind of explain the phase one, which is the east side of the project. Again, everything in that light orange yellow is demoed, and then that existing house to save is the one on the corner. Here's the proposed plan for the phase one area, showing the new parking areas and structures. I apologize again for the technical glitch. The red should be all the east half of the campus there. Local architect Troy Aday was hired to prepare plans for the single-story storage building that has been designed in a craftsman style to appear as a small cottage house with a front porch. This building is intentionally designed and site planned to help partially visually screen the parking areas, as well as to connect visually with the adjacent residential neighborhood. I think it was done very well. It looks like a house from every angle outside, but if you look at the floor plan, it's just one giant storage room. And again, that front porch element would face the street. Look, the same architect was also hired to work on the Malcolm House, which is the one that's going to be saved, which is on the corner, which is 131 East Wickham, and it's being preserved not only at a concern that was raised at the last meeting regarding its visual importance on the corner. During the environmental review part of the project, it was also determined to have historical significance as well. So visually, it's going to help connect it with the neighborhood, as well as historically, we're going to be able to preserve and improve a local resource. The architect prepared the plans for the exterior restoration and the interior conversion of the church, this church's house here, and into office spaces. This is the exterior pictures of it, and I know you can't see this, but these are the plans that just show the proposed conversion. This is a visual that is showing what the Vista Bonita street view would look like, with that historical house on the left there being preserved, and that new storage building / look-alike small cottage would be on the right-hand side. And there's a small little opening for a parking lot area in between them. This is a little bit better view for the next phase of the project, phase two. It would be proposing the development of the remainder western portion of the site. It would include the removal of the temporary modular structures, relocation and construction of the new playground equipment areas, and remaining parking, also well as the landscaping installations and the final construction of the new church worship center, which is the key project. Oops. This is the area showing what the western area would be for the phase two. Again, the historic rock church is on the left. That's going to be saved, and then everything else on the west side would be removed. The church, the proposed worship center is around 18,000 square feet. It contains a ground floor sanctuary, and as well as a subterranean level that would house the classrooms, nursery rooms, storage rooms, and offices, all within the same footprint. The ground level includes a sanctuary space with seating for 350 persons, a foyer, prayer room, kitchen, maintenance, and storage areas. The basement level includes classrooms and meeting areas, nursery rooms, offices, and ancillary areas. Note that the project will be doing a good amount of cutting and exporting of soil to accommodate the construction of the subterranean level for the church's new worship center. While this is a construction-related issue that's temporary, it is a good visual element of the project that isn't done very much on large structures like this, where half the mass will be buried underground. So from a neighborhood's perspective, in terms of compatibility and making it more appropriately scaled with the neighborhood, it brings its mass, half the mass underground. So it's going to be a much lower profile building. Here's some visuals showing what that looks like from Glendora Avenue and Whitcomb. You can see, even though this is a much larger building, it is much smaller in relation to the other buildings, just by how they worked with the massing and the location of the structure on the site, as well as kind of putting a lot of that underground. You can kind of see it does not dominate the project site at all, and in fact, a lot of the historical context is preserved and retained. Here's a proposed sample board. I have it below here if anybody wants or needs it to be passed around. To just kind of shows a little bit about the materials going to be presented on the new worship center, which is going to be kind of a contemporary design. If you saw the plans there, I'd say with some elements and materials that are traditional in style and feel. With regards to parking and circulation, there's going to be, it was the original proposal that caused some heartburn with the neighborhood was basically an entire eastern part of the property was going to be one giant parking lot. The revision basically hides the parking. And essentially it squeezes it in between the buildings and along the alley, instead of having a field of a parking lot on the east. And so the buildings that are going to be saved and built hide most of the structure. You can kind of see the main entrance would be on Whitcomb, the secondary one-way entrance from Vista Bonita, and they'd also have to take advantage of that public alley. With regards to the number of spaces, parking is based on a ratio that's based on the number of seats that's in our municipal code, and based on its seat numbers, it would require, which is around 350 seats, it would require 50 parking spaces, which the proposal does accommodate that, with 49 spaces, and one of those spaces being double counted by state law because it's an ADA accessible EV space. So therefore they comply with the 50 requirement. Notices were mailed to all the property owners within 500 feet. It was also published in the San Gabriel Valley Examiner, and notices were added to the 2 on-site project site boards that were on the east and western portions of the project. Note tonight that the Planning Commission is an advisory body on this matter, and we may be making a recommendation to the City Council. A hearing before the City Council will be conducted later, and a future notice will be sent for that. Glendora, as the lead agency, is also responsible for preparing the project's environmental documentation, and with assistance from the city's environmental consultant, Placeworks Inc., the city completed an initial study on the project in accordance with CEQA. The draft initial study concluded that the project will not have a significant effect on the environment, with inclusion of mitigation measures, and a draft mitigated negative declaration was prepared. The required CEQA mitigation measures were agreed upon by the project applicant and will be imposed on the project. Staff recommendation is that the Planning Commission make a recommendation for the City Council to adopt the prepared CEQA determination, the prepared draft resolution, and the draft ordinance, which approve the application's entitlement requests. Finally, the project applicant and the representatives are here tonight, as well as staff has myself, as well as some of our city consultants are also available tonight in person or on Zoom, and they can also help with the discussion if needed. With that, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Mark. So at this time, I'm going to invite the applicant, BGW Architects, on behalf of Cornerstone Bible Church, to address the commission. Per resolution, allowed up to 10 minutes. Applicant.
Good evening. My name is Bruce French, and I'm actually the lead pastor at Cornerstone Bible Church. I've been attending there for 44 years, and I've been a pastor on staff for the last 26. So there are a few things that I wanted to do tonight. And if you'll allow me in the time, I wanted to begin by thanking our neighbors. And there are a number of them that I wanted to thank by name. First is Dan and Donna Eves, Linda and Ron Davidson, Don and Karen Doctor, Leslie Hefter, Michael and Jennifer, Chris and Donna O'Mahony, Becky and Don Harris, and especially Karen and Dave Acevedo. I mention that because these individuals worked with us over the course of 14 months. And part of what they have done for us and the gratitude that I wanted to express was the great forgiveness that they offered us, the hospitality, the partnership, the creativity, and the solutions. So if you allow me, I want to just give you a short narrative that gives you a context of what I'm saying. So on April 3rd, 2018, we had our last planning commission meeting, and it did not go well. And one of the reasons for that was that we had not met or taken into consideration our neighbors. And legitimately, they came and they expressed their disappointment. So in the next couple of weeks, myself and one of our associate pastors, Mike Churchill, went door to door and asked them to forgive us. And then we asked if they would consider meeting with us. And graciously, they did that very thing. Our first meeting was actually held at the Women's Club. And we gave them an opportunity to express their disappointment and to share their grievances. And I want to say that every single one of them were legitimate. One of the byproducts of that is that we agreed to basically clear all of our plans and start from scratch if they were willing to walk with us. And that covered the next 14 months. I mentioned Karen and Dave because they actually invited us into their home. We had dinners in their homes. They cleared out the furniture. They spread out drawings. And through that process, they contributed to what you see today. As an example, there was one point where we were meeting with that current architect, and it was clear that there was not a relationship that existed with that individual and our neighbors. And so as a result, Brian Dixon was brought in, and the amazing drawings and plans that you see are partly a result of his genius. But I would also add that our neighbors contributed to that significantly. In that 14 months, there were a few things that took place. One, there was a prudent plan that was discussed, and there was an agreement that we would follow all of the CEQA. And I, for one, want to say that I'm grateful that we did. I'm grateful that there's a piece to know that if we move forward, if you give us permission, that it's going to be done right. It's going to take in consideration the environment and especially our neighbors. The second that I would say is that it's aesthetically pleasing, as you witnessed. Much of what you see is because of what they suggested. The configuration of where the worship center is and the actual design was really because of Dan Eves, who himself is a contractor. It was actually his idea to wrap it around behind the church and have it lower. And that was because we really wanted to keep the beauty of the original building, and the previous drawings did not do that. And that was his recommendation, and it resolved a major issue. Another was functional parking. That was actually one of the major things that we're struggling with, is there had to be 50 parking spaces. But the parking dimensions that you see and how that was laid out, that was also their ideas, and especially Ron, it was one of his ideas of how to do that. Another issue was the traffic. And so it didn't really reflect in the drawing, but the exit will actually come out on Whitcomb, and the traffic will go back out to Glendora Avenue instead of back into our neighborhoods and onto Whitcomb Avenue. Another aspect was the cityscape on Vista Bonita, which was a major concern. And so Ron and Linda and Karen and Dave, and also Dan and Donna, they recommended that we actually keep the Malcolm House. And as a part of that, they gave us a history. I recall at one point, Ron brought out a picture that was taken about 1924. It was an aerial view, if you can believe it, from a hot air balloon. And the picture actually showed that house that we described on 131 Whitcomb. And where our church is, that was built in 1931, there was an empty lot. And they were very convincing in their presentation that that building deserved to stay. And so that became one of the major considerations, that we were going to keep that building, restore it, and bring it to its actual beauty. And then, of course, it was their idea in regards to the storage to do that, so that the outside actually looks like one of the cottages, craftsman style. So when you're going down that street, you won't see a parking lot. What you'll see is something that represents the neighborhood and its character. And I would say that that's one of those things that it brought the consideration to that cityscape, but it was also respectful. So the last couple of things I wanted to say to that, when I say respect, what I mean by that is that there is a heritage and there is a history in Glendora, and the church building itself, the stone building, as well as the Malcolm House, brings that to fruition. It helps to complement what's going on within our community and our city. The one thing that I would add to that, I mentioned that I've been attending there 44 years. I was about 20 years of age when I started there. I actually knew 4 of the charter members. One couple was Vern and Verna Winters, and Vern actually was among the members that brought stones, the actual granite stones, out of the canyon in the back of a wagon, and it was hand built. And so I had the privilege of hearing their hearts and understanding what they did in the middle of the Depression. And I personally feel a responsibility for those that went before us to honor them, their plan and their desire. And I have a complete confidence that this actually represents that and not just takes the neighbors into consideration, but also the city. And it's a great privilege to give this presentation. In closing, I want to thank Mark, especially for your hard work through COVID and sticking with us and bring such a great plan. Marianne Marks and Jeff Kugel, who also has helped being a liaison for us. I want to thank especially the Cornerstone family for their grace and patience and our leadership's failings and shortcomings. And I want to thank our God for his grace and his sovereignty, and especially for the blessing to be able to meet our neighbors and to build that relationship. It's been absolutely worth it. And I believe that the phase 1 that we're presenting was a part of that plan instead of doing it all at once. And I'm really grateful to say that the funds are all there for the completion of phase 1. Not a single dollar will need to be borrowed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So at this time, I'm going to invite the members of the public to address the commission to provide public testimony. I'm going to announce that the speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on this public item. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state their name, and all questions should be directed through the presiding officer. If you are going to speak, please fill out a card. So at this point, I'm going to invite any member of the public to come up and speak. Allotted for 3 minutes. Do we have any cards?
We do not.
Okay, so seeing none there, do we have anyone on Zoom?
We do not, Chair.
Thank you.
And I do want to announce that we did receive one written comment, and copies were provided to commissioners and also made available to the public.
Okay, so if there is any other comments from the applicant, normally we reserve some time to address some of the comments that are made by the public, but since no comments are made, if the applicant wishes to add anything else, this would be a time to do it. No? Okay, so I'm gonna turn it over to discussion and deliberations from the commissioners, and I will start with Commissioner Koss.
Well, first of all, I have to say, I remember that original planning commission meeting. And I remember the plans, and I remember everybody that came and spoke, and I remember that very vividly. And I really need to compliment you and commend you for taking that, that feedback, and some of it was not, a lot of it was not positive. And instead of, you use that information and you turned it around and you made it into a positive. And I think the plans that we're seeing tonight are much more feasible. They're much more reflective of the character of the neighborhood and the city. So I think you're definitely to be commended. I know how much hard work it's been for you. I just had 2 quick questions. And I don't know if this is a question for you, Mark, or for the applicant. You talked about alternatives to traditional parking. That was the term you used. What does that mean?
That means they could do, we in the CP will recommend them doing carpool,
Oh.
Do do dial-a-ride,
Okay.
add some bike racks,
Okay. So when you talked about the parking and you said 50 spaces based on the 350 people that can fit in the sanctuary, does that also include like the people that might be there for the nursery or for the other surrounding uses
I think the church can be probably better explain that. I don't believe those other uses be going necessarily
at the same
at the same time. They're usually, if they're in the nursery, because their parents are probably
right at church.
at the
Okay.
worship center and they're probably in the other room.
The other thing I wanted to mention, you know me, I'm the tree lady, right? I'm the one that always mentions trees. So I just wanted to know, I saw some tree removal, but I also saw that there were a lot of trees that were going to be planted. So I just wanted to know what the ratio of that was.
I'd have to dig up the facts on that. They are going to be removing some trees
Uh-huh.
and that they're documented. They're going to be doing further documentation when they get the formal landscaping plan submittal.
Okay.
The preliminary plans they did show us do show an offset that meets the city's requirement, and they'll have to document that more thoroughly as it goes forward.
Okay.
As well as the plans also have a commitment to plant street trees where there's gaps along the 3 front edges.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, those were my only comments. Other than that, I again, I commend you. I know that this has been years in the making for you, and you kind of had to go back to the drawing board and how tough that can be. I think what you've presented here is just far beyond, what you had last time and much better. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Crimmins.
Nothing for me at this time.
Okay, Vice Chair Faber.
Thank you. I had a couple questions, just expanding on the parking that Chair Costa is talking about. So the 50 spots is for the allocated use of the sanctuary. Does that include the old sanctuary too, or how does that work? I guess?
They wouldn't be having two. This is the new worship center. The church might be better acquainted with their operations if they want to kind of expand more on that.
But the parking spots is just based on the main
Correct.
new space, not the old
Yes.
space. Okay.
As far what I remember, the existing Rock Church doesn't have fixed seating
Okay.
in it either. It's just an open space with movable seating.
Gotcha. So it doesn't really
Yeah.
factor into
Yeah.
how you get to the calculation on the project.
Yes.
And then the other question I had, or 2 other questions. So we talked about, at the end, you talked about phase 1, but we're approving the whole project, right? However you do it's
Yeah.
beyond us, right? Correct.
Correct. We don't do them very often, but knowing this is a multi-yeared project, it's best to explain that the reality is that it's going to be multiple phase, and it's good to hear they have the money already for phase 1.
Yeah.
So that'll be obviously the first phase that's getting launched, and then there'll be a fundraising campaign for number 2.
Okay.
Well, and also let's elaborate, and then that's also why if you looked in the condition of approval, there was an extended time period for the approval period.
The permitting and
Yeah.
holding on. Okay. Last comment I have briefly. So the 131 Whitcomb, that's the old house that is going to be restored, right? And then the new structure, the storage area that's behind it, that's probably one of the ones that's not meeting the setbacks if you don't do the map because of the front setback and it becomes more of a side setback. I guess it's a question you, Mark, more.
It's partially that one, but also the parking area setback. Some of the parking lots, especially on that side of the street, is encroaching a little bit closer than it's supposed to be.
Okay.
As well as the new worship center's building setback is closer than the requirement. It would be like 25 feet requirement, and I forget what it is. It's less than that.
Still further away from the
Yeah,
road.
but that's where the site specific zoning kind of plays a hand here. It's like, well, we had to do something custom to meet the neighborhood needs as well as do really good planning work here. And that means you have to kind of move things around where the code sometimes doesn't want you to put a building. So we wouldn't be able to meet some of the setback requirements in the literal sense. So the site specific zoning is an easy tool here.
Okay. And then the last comment I would say is just so the storage area that's on the house, it's hard to tell it looks like it's different color scheme aesthetic than the house, where maybe it's more almost like the back house to the house. So the only comment, not even a comment, I'd say is just, is that aesthetically blend in more with the house and it should be the same colors and match that because of streetscape? Or
I think that
Okay.
architecturally it doesn't match the original house. It has a little, it's
different.
craftsman architecture, but
Sure.
it doesn't have the same stylings as was their historic house,
yeah.
as well as there's a parking line in between them.
Yeah.
So I think it's supposed to give the illusion of a independent little house.
Okay. Yeah. Then that's perfect. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. My only comment, I'm looking at the Vista Bonita view and I have to assume between the cooperation between the church and the neighbors, the landscape, because I was here in 2018 and one of the big problems was just basically the visual, and there was very little softscape of plants and trees. So I'm assuming that that's all part of the conditional use of making sure that we're working with them to make sure
Yeah,
providing-
there's still a requirement to do some visual screening for those parking areas, the little slivers on both the streets, that it might still be visible to have some plants and some low bushes for screening when those plants come through.
Okay. Yeah, and my comment is, I mean, in 2018, I wouldn't have recommended to go to council. I would have been a no vote based on the cooperation and the public comment. So this is a far better resolution, and I commend everyone, especially the church, that what you guys did took you a long time. And so with that being said, unless the applicant has anything further to say during the public hearing, wish to add anything or answer any questions that was brought up? No? Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and close public hearing and request a motion in a second. But prior to that, I'm gonna read the recommendation. It's quite lengthy, so bear with me. Recommends the city council the following. Finding and determined that the ordinance and resolution are consistent with the initial study mitigation negative declaration prepared for the project in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. Also, adopt an ordinance entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Glendora, California, approving the zone change from single family residential R1 and restricted multiple family R2 to planned redevelopment PR, and establishing a site-specific development standards and permitted uses on the properties located at 400 and 420 North Glendora Avenue, 101, 117, 125, 127, and 131 East Whitcomb Avenue. Also 415 North Vista Bonita Avenue, file number PLN 20-0007. And finally, adopt a city council resolution entitled a resolution of the city council of the City of Glendora, California, approving tentative parcel map number 74655, conditional use permit and developmental plan review for the Cornerstone Bible Church expansion located at 400 and 420 Glendora Avenue, 101, 117, 125, 127, and 131 East Whitcomb Avenue. Also 415 North Vista Bonita Avenue, and certifying the project CEQA initial study mitigated negative declaration, file number PLN 20-007. With that, the fact that this is a recommendation, do you guys agree to all the stipulations that we were recommending to City Council?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and conduct a roll. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's
Make
make a
a-
motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
So I
Okay,
have a-
motion made by Commissioner Claus, seconded by Commissioner Cremens, and now we're ready for a roll call.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Crimmins,
Yes.
Commissioner Costs,
Yes.
Vice Chair Faber,
Yes.
Chair Norwood,
Yes.
motion carries 4-0.
All right, congratulations.
Congratulations. Well done.
Okay, so we're gonna move to item number 5, the consent calendar. Does anyone wish to comment on the consent calendar? I'm gonna request a motion in a second to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll make a motion.
A motioner by Vice Chair Faber, and I will second it.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Commissioner Faber, seconded by Chair Norwood. Conduct oral roll call. Commissioner Crimmins,
Yes.
Commissioner Costs,
Yes.
Vice Chair Faber,
Yes.
Chair Norwood,
Yes.
motion carries 4-0.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna invite the commission and staff to make any closing comments. I'll start with Commissioner Costs.
I don't have any closing comments.
Commissioner Cremens.
No closing comments from me tonight.
Okay, Vice Chair Faber,
No comments. Thank you.
And I also have no comments. So with that, we're gonna
Before,
adjourn.
I just have one
Oh,
thing.
I'm sorry, keep
So,
skipping you guys.
yeah, I just wanted to say, so we're heading toward the end of the year, believe it or not. You know, we only have 2 more meetings before we close out 2023, and we're looking ahead to the January 2024 meeting, January 2nd, and notice that is also a holiday, given the way the first falls. So just in your calendar, if we have an item for that agenda, we might suggest doing it on January 16th. So maybe take a look at your calendars and we can communicate more before the end of the year and keep you abreast as to whether we have an item on the January agenda. That's all I had to report.
Thank you. Assistant City Attorney.
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right. The fear of cutting someone else off, I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn the meeting for October 3rd, 2023 at 7:59.